What's up, everyone? Whether you are in Asia, Manila, Auckland, New Zealand, Los Angeles, welcome back once again to the Bigote Brothers podcast. We have a lot of stuff we want to cover
What was
from one game.
that? That first game of the finals is upon us. So we wanna let's dive into the game real quick, but let's discuss about that ending, man. What do you think
Dude,
about that ending?
man, Taliban strikes again.
The Halliburton strikes again. I saw this I saw this meme, right? So obviously we've been seeing the Tyrese Halliburton photoshops, and he's actually commented on it. There was an interview where he was asked. He's definitely seen the memes, which is I don't know. I don't think it's gonna go on Basketball Reference anytime soon, but he's gonna be known as Halliburton from now on. We all know that. So the meme that I saw was that it's Halliburton versus Al Shaida. So they got SGA photoshopped on some poor guy's face. He looks
Oh my
so it's
god.
now the Halliburton versus Al Shaida series, and the Halliburton struck first, as you
Wow.
said. Halliburton up 1-0. Let's dive into the game, right? But you know that ending was insane. So
That was-
you want to recap it? What?
yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a game like for lack of to make long story short, it was a game that the Pacers were supposed to lose. They played horrible the whole game. 30 turnovers. You
Yeah,
know,
that was
30 turnovers. Ty Halliburton had what, 14 points?
he got clamped. Yeah.
He got clapped, but he still managed to sink the game winner. You
It's
know?
the ball is just too, basically the play was OKC missed a shot, right? It was a furious rally by the Pacers throughout the game, and they were close. It's not like it was a blowout, right? It's not like
No.
they were down 20 like the Knicks were to Boston. It's nothing like that. What I noticed with this game was they were in somewhat striking distance the whole game, right?
Right.
Pacers, and they as you said they were playing bad most of the game.
Yeah.
They missed a lot of open threes, and that's what the OKC defense was really giving them. They were giving them a lot
Right.
of threes because
Yeah.
we're gonna go into it a little bit in a bit, but the threes weren't falling for the Pacers. They were struggling with turnovers. They were just the defense of OKC was just it was fun to watch. The
Right.
way they were swarming
Oh yeah.
inside, they were just
Yeah.
clamping on the passing lanes.
They're so active. They're so active around the ball, and you know, strong side, weak side. They're just active. All of them. All of them
They
are
were
active.
relentless, man. I
Yeah.
don't even know if you're. I don't know how anyone could put up with that much pressure from the OKC defense, right?
Yeah.
You'd expect other teams to fold,
Yeah.
and they have, right? OKC's
Yeah.
been blowing out teams in the playoffs, and
Right. This is
Pacers
this is
were
my
one of
question
them.
to you though. This was a game, given the defense of OKC. This was a game that they're supposed to dominate. How did the Pacers manage to keep it close, especially in the fourth quarter?
I think it's just coaching. I think
Coaching, yeah?
OKC
Yeah.
was outcoached. Rick Carlisle did a great job with coaching it. And we're gonna go into the fine details
100%,
in a
yeah.
bit. We're gonna do with this episode is we're gonna do a little bit of analysis, try our best really, just to go quarter for quarter and
Yeah.
what happened there, and we'll see hopefully the many adjustments that were done by Carlisle. It's gonna be evident. So I think that was that they were out coached, and it just OKC seemed to just kind of let go of the rope a little in
Right.
the second half,
Mm-hmm.
and couldn't keep up with Rick Carlisle's adjustments. And if you ask me, Indiana's defense was constant throughout. OKC's was
Yeah.
great, right? That's not,
Yeah.
that's not credit to OKC, but Indiana hung on because of their defense as well. They played great defense, even
Yep.
though Shea was, I think he had 38 or something. He had 38
Yeah.
points. As we're gonna see with our talk later, he's the only guy that showed up. Really,
Right.
right? Him and the goat, Alex Caruso showed up, and nobody else did. So with that being said, let's go into the quarter by quarter
Yeah.
pickups that we got, and then
Right.
hopefully we can see a trend.
Okay. All right. First quarter. So immediately we see a little bit of a change. We see a little bit of an adjustment. OKC's making. They started Cason Wallace instead of Isaiah Hartenstein.
That was a big balls move, man. In the finals,
Small ball.
okay,
Yeah.
they
In
went
the
small ball,
finals. Yeah.
right? Against this Indiana team, where the big man is only Miles Turner, obviously, but
Right.
Miles Turner is a 3 and D. He's a stretch five, and I think that's probably why they started Cason Wallace. They wanted that. They wanted to have that switchability on defense. They wanted to
Right.
have that length without sacrificing their perimeter defense, because we know
Right.
that Miles Turner can get inside and whatnot. Yeah.
He's out, inside outside threat. So yeah. Yeah. Oh, ballsy move to start. And then we're seeing, like, Pacers early on getting open threes. OKC, their usual offensive game, attacking inside. SGA getting those mid rangers. Just yeah, they started out. They started 7-0 for
Yep.
scoring the first 7 points. They're just At the end of the first quarter, you see Indiana down 19, down big. Only nine field goals made. Is that right?
No, it was 8. So Indiana made 8 field goals, right? They had
Eight
9
field goals.
turnovers.
9 turnovers, 8 field goals, 9 turnovers.
They had
made,
more turnovers than field goals,
Yeah.
and they attempted 17 to OKC's 27.
27.
It was just the offensive rebounding of OKC, and the turnovers generated by the OKC defense was insane. As you
Yeah.
mentioned, right? They were going inside a lot in the first, and
Yeah.
there was a lot of mid-range jumpers by SGA. There were a lot of drives. Most of their offense was most of the OKC offense was generated by the fact that it reminds me of the Gilas Pilipinas kind of place,
Yeah.
where the drive kind of collapses the Pacers defense, and that's
Right.
where everything else comes into play.
The-
So,
the drive-in dish.
but the defense. Let's talk about the defense of OKC. What did you notice about that first quarter?
Dude, they were just like, they were on every shot. They were playing the passing lanes. 9 turnovers forced in one quarter. That's just that's just them being on the ball
Yeah.
and shutting down shutting down the passing lanes. It eventually, that's gonna wear you down if you're Indiana, physically and mentally, because their swarming defense is kind of, whatever your offensive sets that you're running, and it's not working. It's pretty much gonna take a toll on you.
It's
know?
annoying. It's annoying, right?
Annoying,
If someone just plays you tight, and then
Yeah.
you can't get a pass off, can't get a
Uh-huh.
shot off, and yeah, as you said, the defense of OKC was extended
Yeah.
apart from 3-point line, over
Uh-huh.
3-point line. Everyone was just
Yeah.
swarming on. If you drive in, if any of the Pacers drove in, you had 2 Thunder players on the ball, and you
Right.
got the weak side covered. It was just amazing switch defense the way that was schemed out in the first quarter, and
Right.
that's what led to that insane stat. Right? When did you see a team that had more turnovers than field goals made in a finals
Right.
game before?
Right.
Right.
Crazy. Yeah.
So OKC was up in the first quarter, and then we go to the
Right.
second quarter.
Go to the second quarter and you see, you see the pace kind of slowing down a little bit. Now you're seeing, when they say, oh, you kind of miss your first 3 shots, and then they say, oh, that's gonna go in anyway. We saw that in the second quarter. Indiana finally making more 3-point shots. 5. They made 5 in the second quarter. But at the end of the day, you still saw OKC up by 12 at halftime. 7 field goals made by Indiana in the second quarter. 5 of them were threes, but man, 10 turnovers.
It was pretty bad. It's the same. Apart from the pace, the second quarter was more of the same, really, for
Right.
Indiana.
Yeah,
Right. But
It was more of the same.
one thing we need to highlight is that even though OKC was up, right? Okay, and this is what I was saying earlier in the show where we said that Pacers were always in striking distance. OKC wasn't making a lot of their shots; they just took more.
Yeah.
That's because of the turnovers. Okay,
Because turnovers, yeah.
yeah. So the Thunder had more possessions, but they didn't make more shots, and that's why the lead stayed as it is. It's 12 points, right? This is the NBA. 12 points is something that's, I mean, it's not insurmountable, really, especially in the first half. So you kind of hope, if you're a Pacers fan, that they would make some sort of adjustment in the second half that would kind of be a game changer, and that's what happened. So if you want to move into third quarter, one of the biggest adjustments that I saw from Rick Carlisle was they started targeting Chet Holmgren.
Right.
So
they started dumping in the post. You know?
Yep. So the way they would do it is that whoever's the ball handler, they would force a switch by Chet. So the minute Chet was stuck defending the 3-point line, they would swing the ball over to whoever's in the post, whether it's Spicy P, whether it's Mathurin, whether it's Miles Turner. They would get that person the ball and they would just feast in there.
Right.
So they did that for a couple of possessions, but it kind of set the tone that Chet has to work for this game.
Right.
He's not going to be able to just wait on shots in the paint and just swat shots from there. He really has to move his feet. And the Thunder eventually countered this. They started pre-switching Chet every time.
Right.
So this essentially exposed another hole in the OKC defense, right? Because you're now getting. This sets up that game winner later, which we're going to talk about.
Right.
But I think that adjustment is the biggest one that they made. They started attacking Chet Holmgren more, and Chet wasn't spectacular in this game. He missed a lot of bunnies. Yeah. He missed a lot of inside shots. He was playing decent defense, right? He was big,
right,
whatnot. But I didn't really see his impact in the game.
No. Yeah.
So
I mean, they were able to cut, but the thing is, despite all that, they were able to cut the lead down, but not too much, like 12 points at 9.
Yeah,
12 points now it's down to 9.
So it's single digits now, entering the fourth.
Yeah.
But you can see that Indiana was starting to pick up. So
right.
They had 9 turnovers in the first quarter. They had 10 turnovers in the second. That's 19 already in the first half. Right. But in the third quarter, they toned it down. They slowed it down a little bit, and they played a little bit more control.
Yep.
They found out the kinks in OKC's defense.
Right.
And now they only have 2 turnovers in the third. Right.
This is where you really give credit to Rick Carlisle, Like, he knows, he's been in that situation before, championship experience, and really does make the adjustment in terms of running the offense, setting the tempo. All right, we're not, okay. He realizes, we're not, we were kind of thrown off our game in the first half. So second half, let's be more patient. Let's work the ball around. So great, that was pretty decent what they did in the third quarter. 2 turnovers.
Yeah, it really shows how great a coach Rick Carlisle is.
Right.
People forget he beat Phil Jackson, right? The Kobe Lakers, and he beat the Heatles on the way to a championship. That's the final clothesline.
Yes.
the teams that Dallas Maverick team beat on the way to the championship. That's probably that 2011 championship from the Mavs. Probably I hate ranking championships. It is what it is, but the quality of teams that 2011 Mavericks team beat.
Yeah,
I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon.
That's such a bad memory for us Lakers fans.
It was
we just got outplayed. And I don't know if you remember, back 2011 Mavericks had a system they called Flow.
Right.
Like it was just I don't know how that system worked specifically, but from the documentary I saw about that team, it's like Rick Carlisle was just telling them, let the play your game, let the offense flow, work for every good shot, and I think that's what he did, for third quarter. They, be patient, just work for a good shot. I think he definitely showed his his coaching in the third quarter. Yeah.
That's essentially what this Pacers team is now, right? I mean, look, Halliburton is the best player on their team, bar none.
Right.
But he wouldn't have gotten. He's not the type of guy who's gonna be dropping 40 points and whatnot. He can
No.
drop you triple doubles every now and then.
Yeah.
He can run your offense, but the way this Pacers team is built is it's a team built on balance, really.
Right.
That's exactly what you just said. It's
100%,
it's about trusting the offense and running the system and just
Right.
getting your shots off from that with with a little bit sprinkle a little bit of stellar individual play when needed. So, as you said, this is one the Pacers eventually got this down to single digits at the start of the fourth, and they just capitalized in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
It was an amazing display from both teams.
Cool. Yep.
The Pacers started attacking Isaiah Hartenstein in drop
Yep.
coverage. They just blasted through that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, OKC's offense was still clicking. They
Yeah.
went up 15. That was the biggest one. But pretty
Right.
much that's the start of the end, because
Yeah.
as we detailed at the start, the Pacers were given a lot of threes by the OKC defense,
Right.
but they weren't hitting them. But they were in the fourth.
Now they were hitting them.
Now they were hitting them, right?
Miles Turner, Neesmith, they're
Obi Toppin, man. Obi Toppin was.
Obi Toppin.
Look, Obi Toppin had a couple of dumb turnovers. I think in the first half, he had probably, might count 2 or 3 dumb turnovers, but he made up more for it because he was essentially one of their most reliable bench pieces in that game.
Right.
Okay, so apart from TJ McConnell scored 9 points in the first half, all in the first half, but that 9 points essentially were the difference for the Pacers team, because
Yeah.
they were able to tide the storm, right? They were able to put up with the storm
Right.
that is OKC, and then that's when Mathurin, that's when Neesmith, that's when Obi Toppin and Miles Turner came to play in the second half,
Right.
and they were just hitting timely bombs, man. Did you see Miles Turner had this one? So he had I think this was his first one was his first three in the quarter, I believe, was that corner three. That was good.
Right.
That's fine. But I think he had a heat check. He had the second one where he sidestepped to the left and he banked it. It was insane. And then Nemhard that had 2 straight threes. The first one was just a good one, and the second.
Talk about things falling into place at just the right time.
I think they hung on. I think they hung on with their defense, right? Their
Yeah.
defense enabled them to hang on for the game, and then when their three
Right.
started falling, it all started
Yeah.
falling.
Yep.
Nemhard had that. He sauced FTA up, man. He sauced
Right.
FTA up and hit that big three. You had Pascal Siakam playing defense and then putting it back just to get them to one, which
Yeah.
set up the Halliburton
Yep.
down one, off a rebound, and this is where Rick Carlisle's coaching came into play. Didn't call a timeout. Off the rebound. Last shot of the game.
Yeah.
Gave it to the man. I mean, I checked Basketball Reference. His nickname is apparently The Moment now, which sucks. I don't think they're ever gonna call him the Halliburton. I don't think that's ever gonna happen.
Nah, I don't think
Well,
so.
we know
Yeah.
he's the we know he's the Halliburton, and they gave him the last shot, right? And it was crazy because obviously they were coming off of a rebound, no timeouts called, so OKC didn't have a chance to set their defense.
No. Yeah.
Right? It ended up Kaysen Wallace getting switched on to the Halliburton instead of Lou Dort
didn't-
in this case.
Yeah. They didn't even. The Pacers didn't even bother to clear out, right?
No, they just basically cleared the rebound, gave it to Halliburton, and let him work. Let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
I think it definitely messed with the mindset of the OKC defenders. They were
Right.
maybe they were expecting a timeout. They really didn't get their feet set. They were if
Right.
you watch it closely, they got caught up in their assignments.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
Kaysen,
if I were Rick Carlisle, I would not call a timeout in that situation. I would not want their defense to set up.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what would be the detriment if someone did call a timeout? I don't think Phil does the same thing. I think Phil does a similar thing where he doesn't really like calling timeouts
doesn't,
this late, right?
yeah.
He lets them play. So in your experience, what would be the difference if someone called timeout in this
So-
case?
We know that because of Halliburton's clutch gene that he has, and we're gonna talk about that later. We know that the OKC, that OKC has studied their last second inbound plays, and we know that in that situation, when you know that there's someone on the other team who's capable of hitting, a last second shot off of an inbound play, you're gonna have that time. If they do call a timeout, OKC has all that time to kind of, set up their defense according to that last second inbound, those last second inbound plays. Now, if you don't call a timeout, if the offensive team doesn't call a timeout, you don't have that luxury of having your defense set up. So in this case, giving it to Tyrese and letting him cook, just kind of caught them off guard in a sense. That was a quick mid-range pull-up. It's something that he's done before, but even
with
then,
a janky ass shot too, right? He has a janky ass shot. Halliburton has this weird shot where his palm is sideways and he kind of flips it over and shoots it.
Yeah.
It's not the quickest jumper there is.
No, it's not the quickest. And here's the thing: if you're OKC, you want to get a body up on Hallie.
Yeah.
In that case, even if your defense is not set up, you want to get your best defender on him. Shout out to the Ateneo Blue Eagles, season 65.
Oh shit!
Game
Pulling it
one.
deep. Okay, go.
Game 1. All right, the ball. 5 seconds to go. The ball. They give it to Cardona, right? Larry Fonacher, who made those 2 blocks, knew that Cardona would not have time to pass the ball.
Yep.
So he went up on him, and the rest is history. 2 blocks, game over. That's OKC should have had, even before Halliburton got that ball off of the rebound, they should have had their best defender on him.
Yeah, and they didn't get a chance to do that.
They didn't. Yeah.
They didn't. They couldn't. So I believe that Dort was on the floor. I believe Caruso was on the floor.
Right.
They would have. If they had time to set the defense, one of those two would be on him, and he couldn't have gotten that shot off cleanly.
Right. Yep.
Right. But they had as good. Cason Wallace is a good defender. But he's 21 years old. Right. He's very inexperienced, and it showed. Right. You just mentioned it. If you were aware of the clock, if you had the awareness to know what the clock is,
right,
you knew that Halliburton wouldn't have he would have had to put up a shot, and he couldn't have drove into the lane either.
Right.
So the only shot he's gonna take is a 3 or a pull up. That's
or
pretty
mid,
much what's left with.
Yeah.
And if you break down that last sequence, you'd see that Wallace was essentially defending the drive.
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of laying back a little bit, instead of, as you said, being next to the guy and just forcing him to put up a bad shot. I mean, there might be that argument wherein you don't want to foul Halliburton, who's a great free throw shooter.
Right.
I get that.
Yeah.
But this is the finals. You gotta be a little bit more physical with him. But I don't really blame Cason Wallace for this. He's, as I said, this was the reason why the Pacers didn't want to call timeout.
Yeah.
They didn't want people.
Get the defense set up.
Yeah, you don't want to be able to get the defense to think, really.
Yeah.
And it worked for them. And he got isolated, left on an island, pulled up the Halliburton with a bomb, 0.3 left.
Yeah.
And everyone was just quiet. It was crazy.
Yeah, I haven't seen a crowd like that silenced.
There was a photo where I think Halliburton still had the ball in his hands, and people were gasping. People were not trying to look.
Yeah.
They knew what was gonna happen.
It reminds you of that photo of '98, the shot against Utah.
Yeah.
Where the focus is on the crowd, and and he hasn't even released the ball yet, but you see the whole crowd like they
Yeah,
knew
yeah, yeah.
they knew it was gonna go in.
A similar one that I remember was, it wasn't the crowd this time. It was the commentator. So there's
Yeah.
two. I'm gonna call out the crowd first. So the crowd, I think it was Memphis versus Toronto,
Mhm.
and this was a meme on the internet. You can find the video
Uh-huh.
of this courtside fan, I believe, from the Raptors,
Uh-huh.
and at this point in time, Rudy Gay was on the Grizzlies.
Uh-huh.
And this was clutch Rudy Gay at this point.
Yeah.
And then, no, don't give it to Rudy Gay. He was just cursing and cursing.
Yeah.
And then Rudy Gay ended up taking the last shot.
Yeah.
That was fun. And the second one that I remember most was Kobe against the Bucks. So I know you know this. So
remember that, yeah.
I think they were down. I'm not too sure.
They're
I
down
think they were down one.
They're down one.
I think they were down one, and then Kobe got the ball, and what he did was he stopped on the corner of the key, did
was
a
a
little
fadeaway,
shoulder
right?
fake. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
took a shoulder fake, did a
Yeah.
fadeaway swish for the game,
Yeah.
and then if you watch the Bucks feed at the time,
Uh-huh.
the Bucks commentator as Kobe was rising up, he obviously was commentating, right? Blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah blah, Bryant with the blah 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 blah, and then the guy said, "No, stop, miss," or something like that. He said, and then Kobe made the shot. It was like you heard how deflated the Bucks commentator was. He knew it was gonna happen.
Yeah. It's gonna happen. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-mm.
So this is just a clutch gene being activated here by the Halliburton. I don't think at
Yeah.
this point anyone's gonna contend that he's clutch.
He's clutch. Yeah. 100%.
So we're gonna talk about it more later, but
It's not even. It's not even the game winners. It's not even like getting that go-ahead basket with like less than a second remaining. It's the way that they've come back from significant deficits with a minute, 2 minutes left, where in a normal game you'd think, okay, this is over. It's the way they're able to come back with that little time left.
it, I hate this. It reminds me of Ginebra. Never say die. Never say die, Ginebra.
Never say die.
But maybe if someone from Ginebra wants Tyrese Halliburton as an import in the PBA, eventually
There
you
you
might
go.
be able to get him when he's
Yeah.
retiring.
Never say die.
But that's it, man. The craziest thing about this game, and I saw this number, was that the Pacers essentially stole this game.
They
Okay,
stole it. Yeah.
the Thunder were up for 47 minutes and 59.7 seconds
Yeah.
of the game. That was it. So
Crazy.
they
Yeah.
were leading wire to wire
Yep.
before Halliburton hit that shot.
Mhm.
And now they're down 1-0. Home court advantage lost.
Yep.
They're essentially in a must-win tomorrow.
Yeah.
They don't want to go back to Philly being down 2-0.
Or to India.
Okay? Especially with the inexperience that they have.
Right.
And we're going to talk about it a little bit more. But what are our main takeaways that we want to take away from this game one now that we've kind of broken it down?
It's at this point, it's like the stats don't really mean anything because Indy stole that game. Like the key takeaway from this game one, man, is anything can happen.
This is why we love basketball. Okay, this is
Yeah.
why basketball is an amazing sport. This is why we watch for 48 minutes because we never know shit like this can happen.
Yeah.
And it has happened a lot with these Pacers, right?
Right.
One thing I wanted to point out was that this is obviously we're Laker fans, and
Yep.
this is something that's important for us as well.
Mhm.
This game, I believe, showed the value of having a secondary ball handler.
Right.
Because what happened was Halliburton was essentially hounded the whole game by
Yeah.
OKC, and maybe that's where all the turnovers came from, whatever.
Right.
But because they had Nimhard, they would sometimes let him bring the ball up instead of Halliburton
Mhm.
because they weren't pressuring Nimhard as much as Halliburton was.
Oh.
They probably couldn't because it
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
going to be physically taxing.
Right.
But they weren't pressuring Nimhard, and having Nimhard there gave the Pacers that bit of relief from the pressure
Mhm.
because the OKC defense was nonstop, as we already talked about.
Right.
So
Yeah.
another thing I wanted to point out was the defense of Indiana held up the whole
Yeah.
game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as we mentioned, the first half, OKC wasn't shooting very well. Apart from that third quarter,
Right.
OKC shot very bad. In total,
Right.
they shot 40% for the game.
Yeah.
Okay, Indiana shot 48%, but OKC shot 40%. I believe this is
Right.
the reason why this was even possible to begin with. Indiana's defense held up. They were
Mm-hmm.
able to weather the storm, and at the right time, they hit the right shots.
Yeah.
Gave way to that last second shot.
Right.
You want to talk? I want to talk about the OKC supporting cast for a bit.
Yeah.
We said Shea at 38. How about Jay, Will, and Chet? I don't think they fared better, right?
Right. Yeah. Sorry.
So
Yeah.
Jalen Williams, you were
Or-
expecting
yeah.
to be the second guy on this team.
Right.
He was horrible, bro. He was horrible. 6 of 19, one
He had
3-pointer.
17 points. Yeah, but 6 of 19.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't even when I was rewatching the game. Really, I didn't really feel he was there.
Yeah.
I saw him miss
Sorry,
a lot
man,
of
I'm
jumpers. I
looking at
saw
the
him
box
not
score on
play well.
ESPN and like the ad popping. Yeah. Yeah. All right.
So
all right, we're good. We're
it's-
good.
I don't think Jalen Williams did his job in this game. He wasn't that secondary
Yeah.
guy that the OKC was expecting.
No, he wasn't. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we kind of really expected more from him. And I mean, Cason Wallace. Like now that I know they started him, but looking at the box score, he's like minus 13. So
Yeah.
I don't know. The gamble. Would you think that gamble paid off?
I think for this specific matchup, I would think that OKC should switch it up really in the second.
Right.
They want to be able to bully this Pacers team all night long
Yep.
because the reason why the Pacers came back was OKC wasn't hitting their own shots as well.
Right.
Shea was great, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But as we already said, Jalen Williams was horrible. Chet
Uh-huh.
was even worse. Chet Holmgren was even worse.
Oh,
He
bad. Yeah.
he had a lot of missed layups. He couldn't buy a basket.
It's 2 of 9. You know.
Yeah, he was 2-9. He
Yeah.
just couldn't buy a basket. He was taken out of the game by Indiana's scheme against them, as we mentioned. So I understand it's his first series. I mean, look, he's essentially a rookie at this point, right? Maybe
Right.
second year player, whatever. But he's essentially a rookie. This is his first finals.
Right.
You don't really expect too much from him, but you gotta get something out of him because
They get something.
the way their defense played in the first half was partly due to him as well because of his leg.
Right.
But if he can't provide on the offensive end, they're gonna have trouble because Pacers are a very balanced scoring team.
Right.
No, I don't think anybody scored 20 points for the Pacers, if I'm not mistaken, in that game. If I remember correctly, no one scored more than 20. I think the most was
Yeah,
Siakam, if
19.
I'm not
The
mistaken.
most was 19. Siakam.
Right? Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go. So
spicy.
no one scored no one scored 20, and they
Right.
still won.
Yeah.
So that shows you how balanced this Pacers team is.
Right.
Shea
Anyone can go
cannot
off
do it by
anytime.
himself.
Another glaring stat that we might want to talk about. SGA went to the free throw line only 8 times.
FTA only 8 times. Look,
Yeah.
this is the finals, man. This is
Yeah.
the finals. You're not supposed to be calling those shitty
Right.
flopping
Yeah.
fouls anymore
Yep.
in this finals, and I'm glad that they didn't do that. So, credit to the refs for that one. I hope
Yep.
it continues. It just ruins the game if you do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is what it is. So
Yep.
now OKC is down 0-1. As we said, they lost home court advantage. We did predict OKC is going to come up top.
Right.
But Indiana's definitely, I mean, they
Oh.
really have a good chance to seal it,
Yeah.
to get ahead of this if they win tomorrow.
Right.
I think it's gonna be OKC blowing them out. If you ask me,
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's the
that's
most
gonna
probable
happen.
scenario
Yep.
here.
Mhm.
But I totally can see the Pacers now getting a 3-1 advantage going back for Game
Right.
5.
Yeah.
That's a reality now.
That's really that's really possible.
All right,
Yeah.
the first finals game in Indiana since 2000. It's gonna be
It's
rocking,
2000. Yeah.
right? It's gonna be rocking down there in Indiana, and I say that because the next time we're gonna film another episode is probably game 4, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So we're gonna have a lot of material to talk about at the end.
Right.
But that's it. So OKC, Indiana Pacers, the Haliban is up by 1-0,
Yep.
and the next topic we're gonna talk about is Game 4 of this.
Right.
So let's move on. So
Yep.
we predicted last time that Tibbs' time in New York was done. We were right for once, man. We were right for once. We saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. It's always bad to see a coach lose their job, but what just makes this thing just really absurd is the fact that Carl Anthony Towns got him fired.
He got fired twice. Once in
Dude.
Minneapolis and once in New York.
Oh
But
my
but to
God.
be fair, I mean, look, it's a fun meme to talk about, but I
Right.
don't think that's really the case. So there
Yeah.
was a meeting. There was a meeting that happened before the Knicks fired him. So apparently, owner James Dolan met
Uh-huh.
with GM Leon Rose and a couple of players.
Right.
And I don't know what the impact is from that, but essentially the players got asked feedback, and some of the this was really anonymous, but I think we can figure out who said all these things.
Uh,
A lot of players said that the offense was stagnant. They were very
Oh, yeah.
heavily reliant on Jalen Brunson,
oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it showed, right? It showed that we talked about this. They said we can't in this modern day NBA. You can't have that kind of offense where it's unless you're a world class scorer. And Jalen Brunson is
Yeah.
amazing, but you can only get away with a heliocentric offense if you're probably the top
Yeah,
1%.
not in today's game, not in
Right?
today's game where, a lot of you see a lot of championship the most recent championship teams like Boston, Denver, you see them, all of them have like you said, all of them have that balance, like, what we're seeing the Pacers do right now. So anyone can go off at any time.
Yep.
And that's what I was hoping for the Lakers, like that run they had in 23. I was thinking that was a team that where anyone can go off at any time, but it's just a playoff, the playoffs come and they just like deflate, so
That's right. That's true.
yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the concerns. Another one, and I'm pretty sure I knew who said this. There was a lot of complaining about the minutes distribution, and we talked about this, right? So
Right.
Tibbs' tendency is to play short bench. He overplays his players. I
Right.
think we said that you have his starters out with a blown game with 10 minutes to go. Why still playing
Yeah.
your starters?
And still playing starters, yeah.
Right? And you can't get away with that in the playoffs where the games get tighter and the calls get tighter and people
No, yeah.
play harder. You gotta trust your bench.
Bench,
I understand
yeah.
the Knicks have deficiencies there, but there's no way your bench players are gonna have any sort of confidence if you don't use them at all.
If you don't use them, yeah, exactly.
So
Another coach, I mean, I don't doubt his greatness, but another coach who's guilty of that is Larry Brown.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. He has his favorites, right?
Yeah.
And he hates rookies. I feel bad.
Speaking of Larry Brown and rookies, man, like I think the greatest nickname of all time is Darko Milicic.
The human victory
The
cigar.
human victory cigar.
I feel bad for that guy, really.
I know.
You know,
yeah,
it's not really
he
his
was
fault.
good, He was talented, you know.
He was decent in Minnesota, right? He had that.
Yeah.
He had that towards the end of his career. He kind of, he's still not a second overall pick. Don't get me wrong, but
No, yeah.
he played well enough to be in the
solid.
NBA.
Yeah, he just needed that exposure. He didn't get it as a rookie,
Yeah,
and
and
that's like that's where coaches like Thib are lacking in that confidence where you have to trust your bench, especially in, that's why you have 82 games in the season.
Yeah.
There's gonna be blowouts. either you're gonna be blown out or you're gonna be doing the one who you're gonna be doing the blowing out. But in those cases, you have to put your bench in.
I think he had a talented enough roster to be able to get away with playing Darko a little bit more,
Right.
given what his roster looked like at the time. But I just he just hated rookies. It was the
Yeah.
same with the 2004 U.S. team, right?
Yeah. Didn't play Melo. Didn't play Okafor.
Right. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of I don't think he just trusts rookies, which if
Right.
you're a coach, you got to be able to trust your players. This is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of coaches not having coaches having a loud voice, there was a complaint in that meeting that some players said this is going to be awkward. They said that Rick
Yeah.
Brunson had a very
Yes.
loud voice in that locker room, which he shouldn't
Really?
have. And yeah, that's tough, man. If you especially if you're Jalen Brunson, I don't know what you're gonna feel right now because
Yeah.
he essentially vouched for Tibbs, right? Number one,
Right.
and number two, people are essentially shitting on his dad, man. I mean, how are you gonna feel about that if
Yeah,
you're Jalen
I
Brunson?
mean Rick Brunson. I remember like when he was playing. Didn't he play for Ginebra?
I think he played in the Philippines. I remember
Yeah.
I remember Rick
I know when
Brunson.
he was playing, like he was tough. Rick Brunson was tough. He didn't really get a lot of playing time, but he was pretty tough. So I understand he's a vocal guy. It's kind of like he's gonna try to at being a former Knick, he's gonna try to want to have like a voice, but in this case, you're not front office, you're not coaching staff. You're pretty much you're pretty much a parent at an 8th grade basketball game. Like complaining, hey, why are you taking my kid out?
There you go. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
confirmed. So Rick Brunson played in the 1998 Governor's Cup for Ginebra.
Oh,
That's insane. That's insane.
Yeah.
They interviewed Jalen when he was playing with Team USA in the World Cup. He was barely 2 years old when that happened.
Oh,
That's
shit.
insane, man. That's insane. That's really cool. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a valid gripe, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's tough. It's a conflict of interest, really.
Yes,
The
it is,
assistant
it is,
coach
yeah.
is the son of the father
Yeah.
of the star player.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not cool to have that. So, but here's the funny thing about the Knicks, right? And as much as
he
we
is
love
coaching staff.
what,
So Rick is coaching staff.
yeah, he's essentially assistant coach.
He's assistant coach. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
he's
okay.
essentially an
I stand
assistant
corrected.
coach.
Yeah, I thought he was just a voice, like
No, he was essentially an assistant coach. That's
he is
weird.
an assistant coach. Okay, okay.
That's weird. So if you're a
Yeah.
player there, that's kind of weird, right?
Right.
But here's the funny thing: as much as we love the Knicks, they did fire Thibs, sure.
right.
You kind of hope that they had a plan, but it doesn't seem like
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like they do.
Yeah, you gonna let Tibbs go? Like what now? Who's like? I know I've heard it. I've heard rumors that Jason Kidd is on their list.
He was on their list, so they asked to interview Jason Kidd, and Mavericks are expected to say no.
Right.
But
Of course.
why the hell are you targeting current coaches? So they
Yeah.
were targeting Jason Kidd,
Right.
who's currently employed with the Mavericks. They're also targeting Ime Udoka, currently employed
He's
with the
like,
Rockets. Why are you targeting
you try
people
to
with jobs?
You try to pirate current coaches who are on active contracts.
Why the hell would you go to New York if you're Ime Udoka or
Right.
Jason Kidd might want to go, but the Mavericks have a right to refuse.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a valid question. What are their plans
yeah.
for their coaching search? Because
Right.
there seems to be none.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's rumors that they might look at Rajon Rondo.
Oh.
Fine, okay, that's cool.
Mhm.
But the players are advocating for that.
Yeah.
I saw Meta World Peace advocate for himself.
Really?
Yeah, imagine Meta World Peace head coach for the New York Knicks. Man.
Oh my goodness.
How funny is that one?
Yeah, that's
there
really
were-
awesome.
There were rumors that they want to lure Jay Wright out of retirement.
Jay Wright, Villanova.
Yeah, but why the hell would he take the Knicks job?
Yeah.
Why would
Why?
he forego retirement for that stress
Yeah.
job?
Yeah.
So what's the Knicks' plan here? What is their end game? Who are they gonna hire? We just saw we just saw the Suns go through, I believe, 3 coaches in 3 years, only to
Right.
settle
Yeah.
for the assistant coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Right.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Right. So what's the next plans here?
Yeah.
What are they gonna do with this coaching search now?
Right.
If you're a Knicks fan, this is probably a precarious situation.
This is a very tough situation if you're a Knicks fan, because and here we go again. You know, uncertainty hovers over the Big Apple once again.
What are you gonna do if you're the Knicks? Is this gonna
Yeah.
be the laughing stock Knicks all over again? Is this gonna be? Are you gonna carry on this momentum you just built
Yeah.
for yourself in 5 years? I mean,
Mhm.
I hope that they get their act together. I hope
Right.
that eventually they figure it out.
Right.
Now, we were talking about clutch stuff earlier, and not LeBron James's
Clutch
agency.
Sports.
We're talking about the real clutch here with the C.
Yeah.
There was a graphic during the finals that mentioned the most go-ahead or game-tying field goals in the final seconds of the fourth quarter of OT since the 1997 playoffs.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so there's 3 players on this list. The most is, LeBron James with 8.
Yeah.
Right? Reggie Miller with 5.
5. Uh-huh.
And Halliburton, 5
5
total. 4 of those in these playoffs. Okay, let's not forget that.
Playoffs alone. Yeah.
All right, so he had that one, and he had that layup, I believe, against the Bucks.
The Bucks, yeah. Mhm.
He had that missed free throw and that 3-pointer against the Cavs.
Against the Cavs, yeah.
Obviously, that one against the Knicks.
Against the Knicks.
The
And
Kawhi
then
shot
this-
against the Knicks, and then this
Yeah.
latest one. It's
Yeah.
been an amazing run for Tyrese Halliburton. But
Yeah.
I had a look. Okay, I had a look, and I'm so happy that there was someone keeping these stats. So apparently, there is a leaderboard of the most buzzer beaters ever in NBA
Yeah.
history. It's about
Yeah.
800
Now-
something of them.
Let's get this straight. When we talk buzzer beaters, we're talking literal buzzer beaters.
Yeah, no more time on the clock. That's good.
Yeah.
Look, not to take away from Tyrese Halliburton, what he did is great. Okay, but what we're
Yeah.
talking about here is that no time left on the clock. You either lose or you win. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it doesn't take away from what Halliburton has done,
Right.
but it's kind of hard to track the shots that Halliburton is taking, right? Because
Right.
it may be a game-winning shot, but it's still 20 seconds left because it's the
Right.
last one that went in. That's fine.
Yeah.
But these are the ones that are buzzer sounds, man.
literally, yeah.
These are the ones you play in your head as a kid, or
Right.
when you're alone in the basketball court. You
Yeah.
count it in your head, and you
5,
take the
4,
shot.
3, 2, and then you take a
These
shot.
are those shots.
Yeah.
So, with the 800 something occurrences in NBA history, okay, this includes playoffs, and this includes apparently the whole NBA.
Right.
So, I mean, and I don't think there's any question who's number 1 on this list. The GOAT,
the goal.
right? Michael Jordan, he has 9,
He has 9.
and we kind of expected this. Kobe has 8.
8. Yeah.
And LeBron has 8 as well.
Has 8. Yep.
All right, that's just the numbers right there.
Right.
But what's fun here to look at is the quality of the shots they were getting and the types of situations there were
Right.
with those shots. Let me break it down a little bit. So, Kobe's game winners, right? He has 8 of them. 6 of those happened when the Lakers were down, which is amazing. It's crazy.
Right.
Just the balls of that guy to just take the last shot always, right? Jordan had 4 of his 9 when they were down, and LeBron had half. He had 4 as well.
Right.
Which is, again, it is what it is. We expected this from Kobe. You know this, right? What's your favorite Kobe buzzer beater anyway? What's the favorite one that Kobe has done for you?
Oh man,
Yeah, what?
there's a lot, man. I will say, one of those is the one against the Heat.
Was that the back shot on Christmas? Yeah. Okay. That was the one where I think he pushed off on that one too, right? Yeah, he pushed off, and then I remember I don't know who was the coach of the Kings that time, but he was the video saw the coach of the Kings looking at Kobe's feet if they're out, but then obviously that was a clean swish, right? I remember that he pushed off on the inbound and then went to the corner and swish. That's not my. I remember that. I think that was a weekend. I think that was a Sunday morning in the Philippines when I watched that game. I remember that. Yeah. But that's not my favorite buzzer beater. My favorite Kobe buzzer beater, and it's gonna show up on this list eventually. Remember that that shot against Phoenix? Off the jump ball. Uh that was a buzzer beater. Kobe got the ball from the jump ball midcourt, and then he went to the elbow, shot it, bang, that's it. And then someone he tore the jersey off, and he was shouting. That was it. That was my favorite one. They were up 3-1. Oh, that's it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was this. That was a similar. Was that? Oh, no, no, no. Another one of my favorites was against Denver. So the one where he just, yeah, the one where he flew from his court case in the morning, and then he just went. He was he. Don't get me wrong. He had a horrible game that day. That day, right? But he hit the buzzer beat, and it was all good for a moment in Lakerland. So anyway, that was the 3-pointer in the playoffs. Right? Yeah. So yeah. So if you're talking about the times when they did it in the playoffs, LeBron actually has the most out of the three. Amazingly speaking. So LeBron James had buzzer beaters at 5 times in the playoffs. Right? Jordan only had 3 of those in the playoffs, and we talked about Kobe, which is that Phoenix game. So I mean, look, we're not trying to diss on anybody here. It is what it is. This is just what the numbers are. But what I noticed was, if you look at the types of shots they were getting, and this is probably just the players being themselves. Jordan and Kobe were mostly taking threes or mid-range shots, whereas LeBron had a little bit more inside to it. Which, I mean, that's who they are. That's fine. So that's just the fun thing about these buzzer beaters. Now, as I mentioned, the next time we're gonna be discussing basketball is probably after Game 4. So we'll know who happens then. But it's gonna be fun. This has been a fun series so far, and we're looking forward to the next one. All right, that's probably it. This is when we're gonna cap into this one. And as usual, follow us on our socials on the bottom. Right, we're gonna be posting a lot more shorts in the future for you guys to consume. And yeah, see you next time. Appreciate the time. Yay.